She was 31 years old, which in 1878 meant she was practically invisible. She'd been passed over 6 times before, watching younger, prettier women get chosen for a new life, one by one. Standing on that dusty platform in the rugged valley, she knew this was her final chance. Then, the most successful rancher in the territory, a man who could have had anyone, arrived late. He walked past every fresh, hopeful face and stopped right in front of her. The woman everyone else had ignored. What happened next would stun the entire town and prove that a life worth living isn't just for the young. Stay with me for this incredible story of resilience and surprising love. Before we dive in, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment below telling me what city or country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let's begin. The stagecoach slammed over another rut, knocking Amelia's head hard against the wooden frame. She didn't complain. She'd lost the will to complain years ago, somewhere between rejection number 3 and rejection number 4. Through the dirty window, the frontier stretched out vast and indifferent. It made the crowded streets of her old life in Boston feel like a fever dream. That life was gone. She was 31 years old, riding toward her 7th and final, gathering for mail-order brides. 7th. The number sat in her chest like a stone. Across from her, a girl named Lily, barely 18, chattered endlessly. Everything delighted her. The mountains, the dust, the possibilities.
"Oh, miss," Lily breathed, "aren't you just terrified?"
"I'm so excited." Mrs. Gable's letter said there'd be ranchers and even a banker. Can you imagine? Amelia could imagine. She'd imagined it 6 times before. "Try not to set your heart on anyone in particular," she said quietly. "It rarely works out the way you hope." Lily's smile faltered, and she patted Amelia's hand. "Oh, but you mustn't think that way. I'm sure you'll find someone wonderful. You're so dignified. Dignified, the word people used when they meant old." Amelia turned back to the window. At 18, the world felt full of possibility. At 31, you knew better. The world didn't bend. You did or you broke. And Amelia had been bending for a very long time. After her teaching position at the charity school vanished, her sister had taken her in. But she was tired of being invisible, tired of the pitying looks, tired of watching life happen to everyone but her. So she'd kept trying. 6th gathering, 6th rejection. Now, this was it. If no one chose her today, she would figure out some other way to survive. Maybe find work as a seamstress, or just disappear into a town where no one knew her, where she'd never stood on a platform and been passed over like spoiled fruit. The coach slowed. "We're here!" Lily squealed. The town of Silver Bend wasn't much, a single main street lined with weathered buildings. But the station platform was chaos. A crowd had gathered. Amelia's stomach clenched. She could see the men and the women. At least 20 of them, a blur of pastel dresses and nervous laughter. 20 women, most of them half her age. Mrs. Gable, the matchmaker, clapped her hands. Ladies, welcome to Silver Bend. We'll conduct introductions in an orderly fashion. When I call your name, please step forward." Amelia found herself at the back as always. The younger women naturally drifted to the front. Miss Lily Holloway, 18, from Pennsylvania. 5 men immediately raised their hands. Lily looked like she might faint from excitement. It continued like that, name after name. Each woman younger than the last. The roster dwindled. 3 women left. 2. Miss Amelia Vance. She stepped forward, chin up, shoulders back. She'd learned not to apologize with her posture. "I'm 31, she said clearly, meeting the men's eyes. "From Boston. I was a teacher there." Not a single hand went up. The silence was crushing. She'd braced for it, but it still hurt. Mrs. Gable cleared her throat. "Well, thank you, Miss Vance. Please step aside." It was a gentle dismissal, but it was still a dismissal. She moved back to her place, the stone in her chest growing heavier. Around her, she could feel the pity from the other women, and that was worse than the rejection itself. The platform dissolved into chaos as men queued up to speak with the women they'd chosen. Amelia stayed where she was, at the edge of everything. She watched Lily get approached by 3 different men. This is it, Amelia thought. This is the last time. After this, no more. She'd failed. 7 attempts, and she'd failed every time. She bent to pick up her small travel bag, ready to find a boarding house and ask about the next stagecoach to anywhere. "Apologies, ma'am." The voice came from behind her, deep and rough-edged. A horse thundered onto the platform, and the rider dismounted in one smooth motion. He was tall, with broad shoulders, straining a work shirt. Dust covered him head to toe, but his eyes were storm gray and steady. Mrs. Gable bustled forward, her ledger clutched to her chest.
Mr. Calloway, you're late.
The introductions are finished. I know it, ma'am, the man said. Fence broke out at Stone Ridge, had cattle making a run for it. Couldn't leave it. Well, Mrs. Gable sniffed. I can't very well start over for one man. Don't need you to, Calloway said, his voice calm. Just need to know. Are any of these ladies still unclaimed? A flutter went through the remaining women. This was Silas Calloway, even covered in trail dust. There was something about him that drew the eye. Mrs. Gable consulted her ledger. Well, most have received interest, but there are a few... Her. Silas was looking directly at Amelia. The world seemed to tilt. She stared at him, certain this was a mistake. Men didn't look at her. Men didn't choose her. I'll speak with her, he said. If she's willing, whispers erupted. Shocked, fascinated, here was Silas Calloway, owner of the Stone Ridge Ranch, one of the most successful spreads in the territory, passing over all the pretty young things to single out the spinster schoolteacher at the back of the line. Amelia's heart hammered. She couldn't move. Calloway took a step toward her, and the crowd parted. Up close, she could see he was perhaps 40, with lines around his eyes from squinting into the sun. He stopped a respectful distance away and took off his hat. Afternoon, miss. Name's Silas Calloway. Amelia found her voice, though it was small. I'm Amelia. Amelia Vance. Miss Vance, he nodded. You willing to sit with me for a spell? She should have said yes immediately. But years of rejection had taught her to be cautious. Why me? The question escaped before she could stop it. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. Fair question. Mind if we sit? He gestured toward a bench at the edge of the platform. They walked to the bench, the crowd's whispers following them. Amelia could feel every eye on her back. Did you see? Calloway chose the old maid. What could he want with her? He set his hat on his knee. I'll answer your question, but I got one of my own first. This your first time at one of these? Amelia almost laughed. No, it's my 7th. He turned to look at her, really look at her. 7th, he repeated. And let me guess. Every time they passed you over for the younger ladies. Every time. Fools, he said flatly. Every last one of them. But their loss is my gain, I reckon, if you'll hear me out. He shifted, and she saw how tired he was. I'm 42 years old, he began. Built my ranch from nothing. It's solid, real. I lost my wife 5 years back. Fever took her. Her name was Eleanor. Amelia's throat tightened. I'm sorry, appreciate it. Took me a long time to feel ready to try again. Finally decided the loneliness was worse than the fear. But here's the thing, Miss Vance. I'm not looking for what those other men are looking for. What are they looking for? A pretty face. A young thing they can mold. I don't need that. I need a partner. Someone with sense and grit. Someone who knows life kicks you in the teeth sometimes and you get back up anyway. He gestured to the other women. Those girls are sweet, I'm sure. But they're looking for an adventure out of a storybook. Frontier life isn't a fairy tale. It's hard work and long winters. Amelia felt that stone in her chest begin to crack. And you think I can handle that? I think, Silas said slowly, that a woman who's been rejected 6 times and still showed up for a 7th gathering has more grit than most men I know. I think a woman who taught school and gave it up to come west has courage worth 10 pretty faces. And I think, he paused, we're both too old to waste time pretending. The honesty stole her breath. What exactly are you proposing? Courtship, Silas said. Proper courtship. I'd like to call on you. Show you the ranch. Let you see what kind of life it would be. And if after a spell we both think it could work, well then we talk marriage. But no pressure, Miss Vance. You want to walk away right now? I'll understand. She studied him. This man who'd chosen her in front of everyone, who spoke of his dead wife without shame and offered respect instead of flattery. Before she could respond, Mrs. Gable appeared. Well, have you two reached an understanding? Silas stood, offering his hand to help Amelia up. She took it. His palm was calloused and warm. We have, he said, and his voice carried, silencing the whispers. I'll be calling on Miss Vance tomorrow if she'll have me. The whispers exploded. Amelia felt her face heat up, but Silas kept hold of her hand, anchoring her. Very well, Mrs. Gable said, recovering quickly. Miss Vance is at Mrs. Baird's boarding house. You may call on her there tomorrow at a respectable hour. Yes, ma'am. He squeezed Amelia's hand once, then released it. Thank you, Miss Vance. I'll see you tomorrow. He tipped his hat, walked to his horse, and rode off, dust swirling in his wake. Amelia lay in the narrow bed at Mrs. Baird's boarding house, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of Silver Bend. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Silas Calloway's storm-gray gaze. She'd been chosen, deliberately, publicly, but the whispers had followed her all the way here. Why choose the old maid? She'd been asking herself the same thing. Men like Silas, successful, respected, didn't choose women like her. They chose youth and beauty, but he'd given her a reason. He was looking for a partner, with grit. Don't get your hopes up, she warned herself. Tomorrow he might not even show. She finally drifted off near dawn and woke to a firm knock. Miss Vance, breakfast is ready, and you'll want to eat before your caller arrives. Her caller. Her stomach flipped. She dressed in her second-best dress, a gray cotton that was practical and modest. Staring in the small mirror, she felt the familiar ache of inadequacy. She wasn't beautiful. Her face was too angular, her brown hair too plain. Downstairs, 3 other women from the gathering sat at the table whispering. They fell silent when Amelia entered. So, one of them, Sarah, said with forced casualness, Mr. Calloway is calling on you today. He's quite successful. We were all so surprised when he chose you. No offense, Miss Vance, but you're older than most of us. Yes, Amelia said evenly. I was surprised as well. Do you think, Sarah pressed, that maybe he feels sorry for you? I mean, you weren't chosen by anyone else. That's quite enough. Mrs. Baird, the owner, appeared in the doorway. I won't. Have you girls gossiping at my table? The women scattered. Mrs. Baird sighed and poured herself coffee. Don't mind them. They're young and jealous. They don't understand what men like Silas Calloway actually want in a wife. And what's that? Substance, Mrs. Baird said. My late husband used to say marrying a pretty woman is like buying a fancy horse. Looks nice, but if it can't pull a plow or survive a hard winter, what good is it? Silas lost his wife, Eleanor, 5 years ago, and it near about destroyed him. That woman was his equal in every way, tough as nails, smart as a whip. She came out here as a mail-order bride herself, you know. She was 23, already considered too old by most. When he finally decides to try again, do you think he'd choose some simpering girl who'd cry if a cow died? A knock at the front door made them both jump. 9:01 a.m. Exactly. Silas stood in the doorway, hat in hand. He'd cleaned up. The dust was gone, his hair was combed, and he wore a clean shirt. His eyes found Amelia immediately. Miss Vance, I was hoping. You might take a walk with me. With proper supervision, of course. 5 minutes later, Amelia was walking down Silver Bend's main street with Silas, while Mrs. Baird's daughter, Clara, trailed 10 paces behind as chaperone. Sleep all right? He asked. Not particularly, Amelia admitted. Not a wink, he smiled. Kept thinking I'd dreamed the whole thing. The honesty made her chest ache. I'm still here. I see that. I appreciate you agreeing to walk. I figure if we're considering this, we ought to know more about each other. So, I thought we could ask questions, trading back and forth. Honest answers only. That work for you? Yes, Amelia said. That works. Good. I'll start. You said this was your 7th gathering. What made you keep trying? Stubbornness, mostly, she said. And desperation. I'm 31, Mr. Calloway. In Boston, that makes me an old maid, a burden. I thought if I could just find a husband, I'd have purpose again. A place to belong. He nodded. Fair enough. Your turn. Why did you really choose me? You said I reminded you of your wife, but then you said that wasn't why. Silas was quiet for a long time. They'd reached the edge of town, where the buildings gave way to open prairie. When I rode up yesterday, he said, I saw all those women. Most looked scared or excited. But you just looked tired. Like you'd been fighting a battle for a long time and knew you were about to lose. And I thought, there's someone who, understands what it costs to keep going when everything tells you to quit. He turned to face her. I've been where you were, Miss Vance. After Eleanor died, I wanted to quit. Thought about selling the ranch, but I didn't. When I saw you standing there, I saw someone who knew that same kind of hurt. Someone who'd chosen to keep fighting. And I thought, if this woman's got that much steel in her spine, she's someone I could build a life with. Amelia's eyes burned. No one had ever seen her as strong, only desperate. My turn, she said, her voice thick. What exactly are you looking for in a wife besides grit? Honesty, he said immediately. Someone who'll tell me when I'm being a stubborn fool. No games. And someone who wants to be part of something. The ranch wasn't just my work. It was ours. Eleanor's and mine. We were partners. I don't know anything about ranching, Amelia said softly. Didn't expect you to, but you know about teaching. That translates. They sat on a fallen log by a small creek. Your turn, he prompted. Do you want more children? The question caught him off guard. Eleanor and I never had any. She couldn't. I'd welcome children if they came, but at 42 I'm practical. It might not happen. Teaching, he said, his tone shifting. You said you were a teacher. Yes, at a charity school. It closed 3 years ago. I've missed it every day since. Silas leaned forward. What if I told you there might be an opportunity to teach again? There's about 15 families working the ranches around Stone Ridge. 30, maybe 35 kids total. The closest school is 20 miles away. Most of these kids get no education at all. I've been thinking for years about building a schoolhouse on my property. Never had the time or the excuse. But if I had a wife who was a teacher, well, that would change things. A school. Her own school. The possibility was dizzying. Amelia stared at him, her mind spinning. You were serious about that? I don't say things I don't mean, Silas replied. She looked at him, searching. I'm afraid, she admitted, the words tumbling out. I'm afraid this isn't real. That you'll wake up and realize you made a mistake choosing someone like me. I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. Or that I'll fall in love with you and you'll never love me back. Because I'm not Eleanor. The words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Silas didn't flinch. That's a fair fear. I can't promise I'll love you the same way I loved Eleanor. But I can promise that if you give me a chance, I'll do my damnedest to build something new with you. Something that's ours. He stood, pulling her to her feet. Here's what I'm proposing. Proper courtship. I'll come calling every day this week. I'll show you the ranch. At the end of the week, if you still think we can make this work, I'll propose official-like. If not, I'll help you get to wherever you want to go next. No hard feelings. All right, she said. Let's try. That evening, she attended the church social. The moment she walked in, the whispers started. She'd expected it, but it still stung. She was talking with a rancher's wife when a hush fell. Silas was standing in the doorway, still in his work clothes. His eyes found hers. Miss Vance, may I speak with you? Outside, the air was cool. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said, turning his hat in his hands. I was heading home and saw the lights. Thought you might be here. I wanted to make sure you were all right. I know how people talk. The thoughtful gesture made her chest ache. I'm fine. They're just curious. They're gossiping, he corrected. And I don't like it. You're under my protection now, even if we're not married yet. He paused. This is real for me, Amelia. When I rode up to that platform, I was looking for you, even if I didn't know it yet. The next day, he took her to Stone Ridge Ranch. It was beautiful, not in a delicate way, but raw and real. As they approached the barn, a man in his 50s emerged. Boss! Jack, this is Miss Amelia Vance. Amelia, this is Ben, my foreman. Ben tipped his hat. Ma'am, we heard in town there was some excitement at the gathering. While Silas checked on a new foal, Ben spoke to Amelia quietly. Ma'am, I'm going to speak plain. Silas is the finest man I know, but he's been alone too long. After Eleanor died, he closed up tight. This won't be easy. He's set in his ways. You'll need to stand your ground, same as Eleanor did. She never let him steamroll her. It made them equals. Silas then showed her the house. It was spacious and clean. I should tell you, he said, his hand on the porch rail. I haven't changed anything inside since she died. Her things are still there. Her apron is still hanging in the kitchen. Don't. Amelia said quickly. Don't pack it away on my account. If we marry, we'll figure out together what stays and what goes. But those are your memories, Silas. I won't ask you to erase them. The relief in his eyes was profound. He showed her the kitchen, and there was the apron, hanging on a hook. He showed her the spot out back, near the cottonwoods, perfect for a schoolhouse. They spent an hour riding the boundaries of the ranch. He stopped at a meadow, at a simple stone marker. This is where Eleanor is buried, he said. The grave was well tended. I come here most Sundays. Talk to her. He looked at Amelia. I need you to know that choosing you isn't about replacing her. It's about honoring what she taught me. That life's meant to be lived with someone, not alone. If we marry, Amelia said, I'd like to bring flowers here sometimes. Keep her memory tended, same as you do. His hand found hers, squeezing tight. The week passed in a blur. Grant arrived every morning. They rode, they talked, they visited the families whose children she might teach. Amelia met the Millers, a family with 6 children. The mother wept when Amelia mentioned the school. My oldest, Thomas, she whispered. He's 15 and can barely write his name. You're giving us hope. The town's opinion shifted from skepticism to acceptance. Silas's public, respectful courtship was impossible to deny. On the last day he met her. I'm going to ask you something this evening. I need you to think carefully. Don't say yes because you're running out of options. Only say yes if you actually want this life. Want me. All of it. That evening, he arrived at the boarding house wearing a suit. He looked so different from the dusty cowboy she'd first seen. He led her to the creek where he'd spread a blanket. Amelia Vance, he began, taking both her hands. 6 days ago, I rode into town expecting to meet a pretty young thing. Instead, I found you. Someone who'd been knocked down 6 times and still had the courage to stand up for a 7th. Someone who looked at my grief and didn't flinch. His grip tightened. I can't promise you easy. The winters are brutal, and I'm set in my ways. But I can promise to respect you, to listen to you, to build that school and support your teaching, to work every day to make you glad you said yes, and to give you a life that matters. He released one hand and pulled a simple gold band from his pocket. This was my mother's ring. She gave it to me, said to save it for someone special. Eleanor wore her own mother's ring. So this one, it's been waiting. He held it up. Amelia, will you marry me? Will you take a chance on a stubborn cowboy and a life that won't be easy, but will be real? She thought about the rejections. She thought about the pity. She thought about the 30 children needing a teacher. And she thought about this man with storm gray eyes, who had seen her when she was invisible. Yes, she said, the word clear and sure. Yes, I'll marry you. The wedding took place a week later. Amelia had expected a quiet ceremony. Instead, the small Silver Bend church was packed. Ranchers and their families filled every pew. Children craned their necks to see, and at the front, Silas waited, his eyes locked on her with an intensity that stole her breath. In the front pew, Mrs. Baird had saved an empty seat. Laid across it was a bouquet of wildflowers for Eleanor. The gesture made Amelia's throat tight, and she saw Silas notice it. His face filled with gratitude. Do you, Grant Thomas Calloway? Take Amelia Margaret Vance. I do. Silas's voice was steady. And do you? Amelia? She looked at the man who had seen strength where others saw desperation. I do. Then I pronounce you man and wife. Grant, you may kiss your bride. He framed her face and kissed her. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. Hello, Mrs. Calloway. The church erupted in cheers. At the reception, Mrs. Miller, Thomas's mother, gripped her hands. Thank you, she wept. Thank you for saying yes. My children, they're going to have a chance now. That night, Grant carried her over the threshold of the Stone Ridge Ranch house. The reality of their wedding night settled between them. They were married, but still strangers in many ways. Amelia, Silas said, reading her thoughts. There's no pressure tonight, or any night. We can take this as slow as you need. The relief was profound. Thank you. That night, they lay in the big bed, a respectful distance between them. But his hand found hers in the darkness and held on. Just wanted to say, he whispered, I'm glad you're here. You being here makes this house feel like a home again. The next weeks were a blur of adjustment. The real test came in late November. A blizzard rolled in, dumping 3 feet of snow. The work was brutal. One evening, Silas came down with a fever, exhausted from pushing himself too hard. Amelia took over, nursing him for 3 days. When he finally woke, clear-headed, he murmured, You didn't have to do all that. Yes, I did, she replied firmly. You're my husband. This is what partners do. In January, the school opened. 28 students, ages 4 to 17, crammed into the one-room building. It was chaos, but it was real. By the end of the day, Thomas Miller had successfully written 3 letters. When Silas met her halfway back to the house, she was exhausted and exhilarated. It was the hardest thing I've done in years, she laughed, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. One cold evening, she found him standing at Eleanor's grave. Do you still love her? She asked softly. Yes, he said, turning to her. But I'm also falling in love with you. They're not competing loves, Amelia. They're just different. What we have is still being built, but it's no less real. He took her cold hands. Amelia, I love you. Not the same way I loved Eleanor, but just as deeply. Tears froze on her cheeks. I love you too. I think I started falling for you that first day, when you chose me. That spring, Amelia woke up ill. Silas, she said, I think I might be pregnant. The doctor confirmed it. Their daughter, Eleanor Grace, was born on Christmas Eve, in the midst of another blizzard. When Silas held the tiny, squalling bundle, he wept openly. She's perfect, Amelia. She's ours. Their partnership changed the valley. When Thomas Miller proved to be a gifted student, they sponsored him to go to a normal school back east to become a certified teacher. He returned years later and opened a second school in Silver Bend. Years flowed by. The house at Stone Ridge filled with more children, a son, and then twin girls. 17 years after that fateful gathering, Amelia, now 48, stood at Eleanor's grave. Grant, his hair now silver, knelt beside her. Catherine came to me in a dream last night, he said quietly. First time in years. She said, You did good, Grant. I'm glad you chose her. She's made you happier than I ever could have. Silas, it's true. He took her hand. Nora, you took a broken man and a dying dream and turned them both into something beautiful. This ranch, this school, these children, all of it exists because you were brave enough to say yes. You chose me, she whispered, when no one else would. Best decision I ever made. He pulled her close. Their children, grown and nearly grown, came out to join them, and they sat together under the stars, a family built from 2 loves, 2 different kinds of courage. Do you ever regret it? Grant asked. Saying yes? Amelia thought of the rejections, the fear. Then she thought of her students' faces, her children's laughter, and her husband's hand in hers. Not for a single second, she said. Every no was just clearing the path for your yes. Thank you, he whispered, for being brave enough to stand on that platform one more time. Thank you, she replied, for seeing me. If you enjoyed this story, please show your support by hitting the like button, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel. You can check out my other stories in the playlist. Your support keeps me motivated and helps these stories reach more people. Thank you for watching.